Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Podcast right here on the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. It's Thursday, May the 30th. And like every Thursday, I'm joined by Mr. Doug Upstone of DocSports.com and my fellow GamblersWorld.net handicapper, Mr. Chip Chirimbes, not only fellow handicappers, but both good friends of mine that we've developed a great relationship over the years. And we have the ultimate respect for each other. I have it for them. Let me not speak for them in regards to me. So I have the ultimate respect for them. And anyway, we're talking Major League Baseball today. But before we get going, folks, just a friendly reminder, if you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel, please take a second to hit that subscribe button. And if you're on your PC, you won't see a subscribe button. You'll see a WC logo. And that serves the same purpose. Just click on that, folks. 100% free, no strings attached, no hidden agenda. And go into your YouTube settings while you're at it and click on the alert notification bell for the Winner's Circle Sports Betting Channel. You'll be notified immediately upon any of our 5 podcasts going up here weekly. In addition, there's a like button right underneath, and it goes a long way with GamblersWorld.net to keep these videos free, keep them alive, and maybe even put out more in the future if you hit that like button. So it's just a small token of your appreciation for the time, work, and effort we put in to bringing you a quality podcast each and every day. Folks, it's like going to a bar or going to a restaurant. You tip your bartenders, you tip your waitresses and waiters, and the difference being you got to give them money. You don't have to give us anything to hit the like button. Come on. Chipper, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's a great time of the year, and there's some big things coming up today that I want to talk about. But, hitting the NBA last night, hitting that game with Minnesota was really crucial.
Tuesday night.
In the NBA.
Tuesday night.
So that was because it just keeps your momentum going. And now, we don't have that many games left. I think these people ought to try and jump on now because I know, Ross, you've been lighting it up, and I've had a great NBA playoff, and Doug as well. So, now's the time to, grab the pluses while we have them.
Yeah, Chip's been a great NBA handicapper, period. Not only during the playoffs, but during the regular season as well. So he's been up amongst the elite when it comes to NBA handicapping. And another guy who's amongst the elite, not only in the NBA, but across the board, is my buddy from Arizona, the guy they call Dangerous Doug, the guy they call Dry Heat, Mr. Doug Upstone. What's going on, my friend?
Well, Ross, a little melancholy today, but not too much, only because my 10-game winning streak in baseball came to an end yesterday. And so I was disappointed in that. But, hey, you know what? You're never going to
have, Doug? Who'd you have?
I had the Cubs. Their pitcher last night had his worst outing of the season of his major league career, and against a weaker hitting Brewers lineup against left-handed pitching. But hey, you know what? Those things happen. So you move ahead. Still 10-1, 14-3 runs in baseball. So that is going extremely well. The last 6 days, 15-7. So a nice 68% run across all sports, 3 in a row with hockey, and I got a hockey play going tonight. And then you mentioned, the game 5 tonight between the Timberwolves and the Mavericks. And so I also have a selection there. So, hey, just giddy up and go, and let's make it happen. And so, and the other thing, too, is that, Chip has been trying to claim the title of being Mr. Hawaii. But as I just explained to him before we started the show, that title actually belongs to me. Now, he's a dapper, tired gentleman, that's for sure. But you know what? Hey, I can compete at that level, too.
Well, Doug, I got most of my stuff from Florida when I was down there. So,
yeah, Hollywood Beach.
Hawaiian touch.
Yeah, Hollywood Beach. He was like Jackie Gleason, away we go. Yes. And, I've known Chip a long time. When I first met him, he's something, but nowadays he's something else. So he's really progressed in that regard. In any event, NBA, I did have Minnesota on Tuesday night, just like Chipper. I also, last night, had the Kansas City Royals in the first 5 innings, a 6-1 winner over the Minnesota Twins. The game's actually stayed 6-1 with no runs being scored over the last 4 innings of that game. And, Doug, Sean, actually, we went 2-1 on a show yesterday, and Sean had the only loser. And I'm not picking on Sean. I'm just saying that I can understand why both of you did what you did.
Oh, yeah.
Amana had an 0.89 ERA going into that matchup yesterday. 8-1, and his team starts with an 0.89 ERA, and he got shelled yesterday against a team that's been struggling to hit. So go figure, Anyway, we move on, and we got some on the agenda today. I'll be looking at the Angels and the Yankees. Chipper will be looking at the D-backs and the second favorite team of all time, the New York Mets. And Doug will be looking at the Tigers and the Red Sox from Fenway Park. Before we get going on that, on this day in history, what's occurred, Chipper?
All right. Now, I have some for this day in history. In 1935, Babe Ruth, then playing for the Boston Braves, you may have remember he started with the Boston Red Sox, had his final at-bat in Major League Baseball, first inning of the game of a doubleheader. He took an at-bat, took him out of the game, and retired 3 days later. But there's more things that are current that I'd like to mention, if it's all right, Ross. Sure. Fallen Angel Hernandez was fired in Major League Baseball in the middle of the season, something I've never seen. I mean, I'm 75 years old. I've never seen an umpire get fired in the middle of the season, and you would have expected the union to come to support him, as they did Mike Andrews when Charlie Finley tried to fire him in the middle of a World Series after making big errors. The union was actually the ones that wanted Angel Hernandez out, and they were the one that insisted on it. 10 years in a row, he was voted the worst umpire by the players in Major League Baseball. And Ross, if you've seen any games with him, he just seems to want to take over. He doesn't let the players play the game. We see this happen in basketball all the time, but it happened to Angel Hernandez, and they finally jettisoned him out of there. But,
before you move on to the next subject, but, Chip, somehow he ended up being in the postseason. In recent times. And I don't get that, because if you're grading an umpire on his performance level, I don't know. Anyway, go ahead.
If I may, excuse me, just chime in, Ross. On the union side, it's rotation for the postseason. It's not earned.
Okay. It's not a performance-based thing.
Not at all. Okay. So that's why.
That's stupid. And one last thing, which just happened in Major League Baseball, Ross, is that they're going to include all of the Negro League records into the Major League Baseball records. Mm-hmm. And boy, I think this opens up Pandora's box. Number one, doesn't Ichiro now be the number one all-time base hit leader? You got to count the Japanese professional leagues, which were a grade above the Negro Leagues when they played them back here, because all those teams aren't all that strong. You did have some really great ball players. There's no question about it, Hall of Famers. But also, here's another thing going to be thrown into the monkey wrench into the statistics. They're considering this Major League. What about Hank Aaron, Jackie Robinson, and Willie Mays? They all played in the Negro Leagues. Do their home run totals and batting averages now become increased? I don't know why they would do this. I understand wanting to acknowledge these great players, but I think they're really doing a disservice here. I think that it's a misnomer. The competition in those Negro Leagues wasn't all that strong. They did have great players, and that's probably why they were able to put up such great numbers. But I don't see how they can combine them. I really don't, because like I said, there were so many young black players that played in Negro Leagues. Now their records have to be changed. Mays doesn't end up with 660 home runs. He ends up with, how many did he hit in the Negro Leagues? So I know that's just a comment on that. Yeah. Baseball's out of the way. Babe Ruth's final day. Angel Hernandez is gone. But we can win today if you give us a chance. What's that?
Great stuff, man. Great stuff. If I can make a comment on what I want to handle this because it's sensitive. Okay?
Delicately, yes.
We got to be careful with that, and for obvious reasons. And you know what? Here's the thing. Who's the catcher? Josh Gibson, who was one of the best power hitters in Negro League history. And he was definitely, they wanted him in the majors. He never got his opportunity. Satchel Paige, who didn't get his opportunity until what? He was in his late 30s or early 40s.
I know he pitched when he was 50 for Kansas City. They brought him out.
Yeah. I mean, again, I understand what you're saying in terms of the premise.
Yeah.
And taking the statistics, it would be just like, I don't want to call it minor leagues, but let's face it. The overall Negro Leagues were of AAA caliber for the most part. Yeah. And that's not a knock on the top players in that league, because there were several players in that era that deserve to be Major League Baseball players before they allow blacks to be in Major League Baseball, which is an absolute shame, by the way. It
Ross,
just shows how backwards our society was at one time. Go ahead.
The Braves and the Monarchs played an exhibition game at Yankee Stadium once, and they had 71,000 people. So it isn't like people didn't acknowledge that they weren't great ball players. But like you said, at AAA level is probably where it was. And I remember Pete Rose making a comment when someone said, well, Ichiro's got more professional hits. And so Rose said, well, why don't we go back to the Little League and count that too? So he doesn't consider the Japanese Baseball League to be on a par of the major leagues. And,
your buddy Pete Rose is a jerk.
No question about it.
So,
listen, but he's not going to be too happy about this, believe me.
Yeah, it's you know what? I think Major League Baseball isn't concerned how happy or unhappy Pete Rose is. Neither am I.
Ross, he's very surly. I see him out here all the time. Yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah. Doug, any thoughts? I mean, that's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's a subject that doesn't seem like a win-win situation here.
No.
I'll just say this, is that I don't believe the NBA absorbed, I could be wrong on this, by the way. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not sure that the NBA absorbed the records from the ABA. Okay. I don't believe so. And so that being the case, and to the point that both of you have made, there was a lot of great players in the ABA, and several of them, what came to matriculated to the NBA. But in terms of the level of competition, it was lesser. And if it was better, they would have absorbed all the teams, as opposed to, I believe it was 3 or 4.
Denver Nuggets, Indiana Pacers,
San Antonio,
the Nets,
the New Jersey. They were the New York Nets at that.
New York Nets. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, those 3 teams, if we're not missing any, the roster from those teams from the ABA came over to the NBA. It's not like it was in the NFL when you create a new franchise and you start from scratch, or in the NHL when you start, all of a sudden Minnesota was a North Stars years ago. They lost the franchise, come back. Those franchises are starting from scratch. As I recall, that wasn't the case with the ABA. Julius Erving was there at the time. He played the last year in the ABA. He was with the Nets, right?
Originally he was with the Virginia Squires, and then he went to the Nets. Okay. And the Nets played against Kentucky Colonels. They had Dan Issel and Artis Gilmore. There were some great players out there. They really was. And
Dan Issel, who ended up playing with the Denver Nuggets for years.
Right.
So, in any event, it is a sensitive subject. And when we compare the Negro Leagues to AAA baseball, folks, it's with no disrespect, because I will preface that by saying there were several Negro League baseball players, and I even hate using the term Negro. There were several black players at that time that deserved and would have thrived in the opportunity in the major leagues. But because of the backward society we were living in back then, they weren't afforded the opportunity. What Chip's trying to say is now you're opening up a Pandora's box with statistics, okay? Right. It's not with any disrespect to anybody who is Major League Baseball caliber type of player and was just deprived of the opportunity because of the situation.
And Ross, baseball is so statistically driven. I mean, when you're a kid, baseball cards, reading the back of those cards and knowing people's lifetime averages is part of the game. And now all of that's going to be adjusted and changed. I don't know. I understand what they're trying to do, to be inclusive, but I just think there's a problem here with this.
You know what Chip used to do, Doug? He used to buy the baseball cards in the packs, and then he would sell the gum and get his money back. Anyway.
Well, Sean Higgs is a big collector.
No, he still is. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah. Yep.
So, all right, let's get to the matter at hand, because I can hear some of these younger guys going, really? I'm tuning in to get some picks here and wanting to win some money, and you guys have been doing awfully well. And I got to sit here listening to about the black leagues back in the day. Bottom line is, it's a podcast, folks. But let's get her going anyway. Chipper, I'll start with you. The D-backs and the Mets, 7:10 p.m. Eastern time from Citi Field in New York, not Shea Stadium, Chip. Right. They play at Citi Field now. And Zach Gallen's on the mound for the D-backs, and Scott. What's Scott's first name? Doug? Christian Scott. So what do you got here, buddy?
Well, first off, this Arizona team makes it to the World Series along with Texas last year, and both those clubs are struggling this year. I don't think Arizona is going to be the same type of club. They're under 500, 5 games under. But they have their ace going today, Zach Gallen, and he's 5-4, 3.12 ERA, which is fine. But the Mets are just a total meltdown here. Alonso's down with an injury. Their pitcher Lopez was sent to the minors after throwing his glove into the stands yesterday. They've blown more late leads. They blew game after game after game. Edwin Diaz is supposed to be their big savior. He's on the shelf now. He's gone. I just don't see them being able to put any offense together. They really don't. This O'Neill, who led the league in hitting one year, is at 212. Lindor's struggling to stay over 200. This Christian Scott is their big prospect for the Mets. He's the guy they're hanging their hat on for the future if they were to have one, and I don't know if they do. But they've lost 15 of their last 19, Ross, and they're heading into the doldrums, and I don't think they can score many runs over Zach Gallen. And Arizona's had a problem as well as scoring runs. And the fact that this Christian Scott actually isn't all that bad. He can strike some people out. You may get some good innings out of him. I mean, you don't want to go to the bullpen with this Met team. You really don't. I think this game should stay under the total because of the Mets' ineptitude and because of Arizona's doldrums this year after making the World Series last year.
You know what, Chip? And it's under 7, by the way, folks, in that game.
That's low, Ross. I mean, Arizona's only scored 7 runs in their last 5 games, if you want to add on to that. So
if you don't trust the Mets bullpen, I know I've evolved in this area, but I haven't heard your opinions on it because you're old school in a lot of ways. And I don't mean that disrespectfully because you do well. And if it's not broke, don't fix it. Right. But, when you get a bad bullpen like the Mets that you're alluding to, or a bullpen that's struggling, have you ever dabbled into the idea maybe I should start using first 5-inning plays?
No, Ross, I tried that. I tried that yesterday on the Kansas City Minnesota game, which did say under for the 9 innings. And I tried to do it for the first 5 because they had their 2 aces going. And it's difficult to find on some websites. They don't actually offer it. So it's hard for me to get into it if I can't sell it, if you know what I'm saying. It can be a winner, but if they don't have access to it, it doesn't do anybody any good.
Well, anybody with the only way they're not having access to it is they're dealing with a sports book that's very small. And I don't mean this disrespectfully.
Yeah, like how do we get it out there to them?
All you need to do is go to any. I can't mention the competitor's name that has the odds every day. There's a couple of them out there. Doug, you know what I'm referring to, and they list all the first 5 innings odds, and all the major U.S. sports books at this time do have that available. When I say major being the key word, though, Chip, you know,
the thing is, I'm not necessarily talking about being able to get down on the action. I'm talking about being able to put it on the sites ourselves.
Well, I mean, we could put it on our site at gamblersworld.net. I could put it on another site, but you're right. There's still some sites out there that don't give you the ability to make those types of plays. And I would say to that is get with the program, man. You know what I mean? We live in a different day and age, Doug, where, if you need to eliminate a bullpen and you got 2 good starting pitchers, and like Chipper's confident in both starting pitchers, but he's not confident in the Mets bullpen. You know what I mean? And if you give him an option of maybe going under 3.5 in the first 5, he might be better suited to do that. And his clients would be better suited to follow that. But anyway, Doug, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, on this one, Ross, and with talking this game specifically, this is as bad as it gets. Chip was talking about runs scored. Both teams in their last 7 games, Arizona 2.9 runs per game. The Mets, they're just so much better. They're at 3.0 runs per game. Okay? So they're just killing it here. Gallen, really good pitcher on the road though. This year and the last several years, I mean, his home road numbers are so different. He's got a 4.32 ERA on the road. So that's kind of troubling looking at the under. Scott's at 3.97 as a starter with this one, and the other thing that comes into play here, even if the game is somebody's leading 3-2 after 8 innings, with these 2 bullpens, with the number of blown saves they have, I mean, you can't feel confident looking at a 7 in this one. So here's what I'm going to do. Seeing we brought up the name Christian Scott, I'm going to say I got the priest coming over. I'm taking the under. He's going to douse me with some holy water, and I hope that I'm good, okay, for my pick here on the site.
There you go. There's a different perspective on a pick, Chip. Have you ever heard an analysis like that? You can't go wrong when a pope's coming over to bless you on a pick.
Listen, I'm learning every day.
And me as well, my friend. We got to absorb information. Speaking of absorbing information, Doug, it's your turn. It's the Tigers and the Red Sox. It's the former St. Louis starter Jack Flaherty on the mound for the Detroit Tigers. It's Nick Pivetta, the veteran right-hander for the Boston Red Sox, 7:10 Eastern Time scheduled start. And Boston right now, a -125 money line home favorite. Total in this game, 7.5.
Yeah, the Boston returns home after they just had a short road trip over to the land of crab cakes down in Baltimore. Lost the series. Detroit yesterday split a doubleheader with Pittsburgh. So they were 4-2 on their homestand. They hit the road, but they're just a 500 club, and they're only in fourth place in the suddenly tough AL Central. Now, this is going to be a 4-game series between Boston and Detroit, and as mentioned, Flaherty's going to take the mound for Detroit against Pivetta, and actually Flaherty's pitched better than his 1-4 record. He's got a 3.84 ERA, but his WHIP is only 1.082, and whatever the Tigers pitching coach has changed about Flaherty, his career strikeouts to walk ratio was 3-1 coming into this season. So far, after 10 starts, it's 9-1. Okay?
That's outstanding. Yeah.
So he's just been a different guy. So something's been figured out with him. Pivetta, he came to Boston several years ago, got off to a great start, but he has since just regressed to what he was as a Philly pitcher, which was just kind of a mediocre one here. Boston at Fenway Park this season, 11-15, not a good record. But here's the thing. They have won 10 of their last 12 games against Detroit, including 5-1 at home. So I'm just going to lean a little bit here with Boston on this one, and hopefully I get this one right.
Boston -125 over Detroit. I remember this year at this time, we were discussing Nick Pivetta as a possible early favorite to win the American League Cy Young Award. And things have changed abruptly since then. The Detroit Tigers, whoever their pitching coach is doing a hell of a job. Not only with Flaherty, but that whole starting rotation. And their bullpen at times could be shaky, but there's some good arms out there. The problem with Detroit isn't their pitching. They can't hit their way out of a paper bag, Chipper.
Yep. No, I agree. And, Detroit, along with Kansas City, are probably one of the two best improved teams, and particularly in that division in American. I've always liked this Pivetta. He's always given up less hits than innings pitched, and that's a key factor that I pay attention to, as long as they're not walking a lot of people. He's 2-3 lifetime against this Detroit team, but Doug had mentioned the Boston Red Sox dominant over the Tigers. They've won 9 of the last 10. You said 10 of the last 12, I think it was. And it's hard for me to play against that. It's sort of like the beat goes on, when they've got your number, they have your number until it turns around. I'm going to have to play against them. And I'd play Boston here, though I wouldn't post the game. I lean toward Boston like Doug does here. I think the series history lends a lot to it. Two decent pitchers. Pavetta's been very, very tough this year. And, Flaherty's having a comeback, though he's only 1-4. ZRA's under 4. I think Boston's still the side here.
Again, the whip, you know what I mean? I think a lot of guys lose sight of that. And I put a lot more emphasis, me personally, on the whip. Right. And when a whip, as Doug alluded to, is 102, that tells me he's pitching very well. Yeah. And I would almost want to go out on a limb without looking at statistics right now and being unaware, and this being an unfounded statement, but just an educated guess, is that he's given up a few more home runs than he like right now for his ERA to be that high and his whip to be that low. That usually is the equation. And again, folks, I don't know that.
He's given up, Russ, you're right. He's given up 7 home runs in only 30 innings and only given up 27 hits. One out of every 4 hits he's sacrificing is a home run. So he's got to keep the ball in the ballpark.
Yeah, that's there you have it right there. So, all right. So Doug likes the Boston Red Sox -125 over Detroit. Doug, we talked, and again, I'm going to pick on you here, okay? And it's not because I don't respect you. You know that's never going to be the case. But we talked on the phone and had a elongated conversation on betting strategy. I think it was last week, and we brought up in-season trends, and I said, I put emphasis on trends, especially if it's head-to-head like this. I deem it to be pertinent. And there's a trend and a pertinent trend to me. The one that makes sense and one is maybe purely coincidental, or one that should not even be brought up, like past trends like you just alluded to. And I will say this, that the only negative I will say about Detroit being dominated by Boston over the last few years is those were much better Boston teams, and those weren't as good a Detroit team. Actually, it probably is over the last 2 years based on the 12 meetings. So, 3 years. So, 2 years, because you're looking at Fox sheets, and they're saying 2 years because it goes back 2 years. So it's actually since 2022. And again, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. But it's something worth noting, because I do, and Chipper, I know you look at team trends on occasion, and I know that if anything, when it comes to in-season trends or head-to-head series, you seem to be on the side of, if a team's got your number, like you just alluded to, it does. But is there certain instances when we look at these head-to-head meetings where you say, okay, this is not the same Boston team in the last couple of years, and also not the same Detroit team, even though they're having a hard time scoring runs, their starting rotation from top to bottom is extremely better in terms of quality. So.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that in terms of the reasoning for me is that why I prefer Boston, besides the fact, I mean, is Boston not as good as what they were previous years? Probably, somewhat less. Detroit is better, but they're still 500. Okay, so we're not talking like this is, so in terms of the team's records, they're virtually the same. They are playing at Fenway. The recent history shows that Detroit has struggled there. So I have no problem taking Boston because of that.
Yeah. So, and again, uncustomarily, Boston's 11-15 at Fenway Park this year.
Yep.
Which I just look at. I told you guys before the season started, I bet the under 77.5 regular season wins on the Red Sox, and I still love that play right now. And I'm going to tell you, I still think before it's all said and done, Boston will lose 95 or more games this year. I just don't think they're that good. You look at their lineup, and they got Rafael Devers is still in that lineup, but who else do they have?
Defensively, they're really poor.
Well, they've been poor defensively for a couple of years now, right? Chipper, and really haven't done anything to improve it.
I'm happy to see that.
Yeah. All right. But look, I'm not suggesting I like Detroit. That's not the case. But I just thought it was a pertinent topic to bring up.
Yep.
So in any event, let me get to my game, and then we'll wrap things up here. And these guys could tell you what they got coming up as well. The Yankees and the Angels. It's a pair of left-handers, Carlos Rodon and Patrick Sandoval. Right now, the Yankees are a -185 road favorite. The total in this game is 8.5. I don't like the total. Okay, so I'm not even going to discuss the total. I'm not going to even bring it up. So that narrows it down to what? The Yankees or the Angels. I'm never going to lay -185. You guys know that. It's just not going to happen. I don't think you need me to lay $1.85. You could do that on your own. And I am not going to tell you to lay $1.85 because I never will on my own personal bets. Why should I ask you to do so? To just steal a win? No, I'm not going to do that. So here's the thing. Now I'm down to the run line. Okay. You either take the Yankees on the run line or the Angels on the run line. I'm going to opt to take the Yankees on the run line, but I am not going to take them on the game run line. I'm going to take them in the first 5-inning run line, which they're laying a half a run at money line odds of -115. Now, I know that might confuse the living crap out of a lot of you out there, including the two guys I'm working with today, but hear me out, okay? because the Angels are 6-7 in their last 13 games. All 13 games, they were a money line underdog, which means they're a run line underdog. And guess what? And the 7 losses, 6 of those 7 losses came by 1 run. So 13 games, all underdogs, and 12-1 versus the run line as underdogs in their last 13 games. They lost the 7 losses, 6 of them have come by 1 run, including a 1-run loss last night, 2-1. Patrick Sandoval on the mound for the Angels, 0-5 in his team starts at home, 7.46 ERA, 178 WHIP. Not very good. Patrick Sandoval, since last year, 15 starts against teams like the Yankees that are outscoring their opponents on the year by 0.5 runs or better. Those usually are teams that are approaching the 600 win percentage or in the high 500s, and that's the case with the Yankees here. In those situations since last year, the Angels are 1-14 when facing those types of teams when Patrick Sandoval is their starting pitcher. So not only has he struggled this year, he struggled since last year when facing quality opposition. The Angels, respectable 14-14 on the road, right? I mean, that's not bad. I mean, as long as you're winning your home games, but stop right there. They're not. No. They're 7-20 at home.
Yeah.
7-20. Carlos Rodon's having a pretty good year, Chip. 2.66 ERA, 1.16 ERA. Last 4, the Yankees are 4-0 with Rodon and his 1.88 ERA in those outings, and his 6+ innings pitched in each one of those outings has been a major contributor to their success in those games. The Yankees over the last 7 games, they've led after 5 innings 6 times of those 7 games, and the other one was tied. So I'm going to lower the number and lower the risk here and take minus a half a run at minus 115 in the first 5 innings for the New York Yankees at the LA Angels. Doug?
I have a little more faith in the Yankees than what you do, but the basic premise of everything that you laid out is absolutely correct. And then, Sandoval, a couple things on him too. With a runner on base, okay, his on base percentage as a pitcher is, or I should say, opposing teams are batting .8380 for on base percentage, and if there is a runner in scoring position, the opposing team has an on base percentage of .45. Those are horrific numbers by any level, okay? And to take what Ross said and just let's go a slightly different direction. If Sandoval is facing a winning team against the run line, 3-16. If the opposing team has a scoring difference of 1 run or greater, Sandoval is on a 0-8 run. So I got no problem taking the New York Yankees at, believe they're minus 105 on the standard run line.
There you go. So, and again, he's 0-8 in those situations against teams that are +1 or greater. He's 1-14 against teams that are 0 plus 0.5 or greater. So again, when he steps up and has to face quality opposition, here's the thing with this run line thing. Okay. I'm looking at in my opinion, with the way Carlos Rodon has pitched this year, as having a distinct advantage over Patrick Sandoval. I'm trying to shorten the game here, Chip.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying by that is, do I think that the Yankees should be up by 1 run or more in the first 5 innings with this starting pitching matchup? And they very well may come through as a minus 1.5 run line favorite as well. But why even jeopardize those last 4 innings? Yeah. Because to me, they're going to be behind the 8 ball if they're not off to a lead in this game after 5 with this starting pitching matchup. They're going to be in for a fight the rest of the game. I mean, because when you look at the Yankees bullpen over the last 7, their ERA is a little bit up there compared to what their season numbers are. And when you look at the Angels bullpen over the last 7, it's below 3. If I'm not incorrect there. So that's what my thought process is. But Chipper, that's what I mean about these first 5 inning plays. I know this is sort of an unorthodox way to go about it, But
no, Russ,
yeah,
I'm sorry. I think it has a lot of merit. I really do, particularly the way the game is nowadays. You're not seeing anyone go 9 innings as it is. Guys are being pulled out of games that were pitching no hitters, and they've thrown 83 pitches. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Most games now you have to rely on the bullpens. And like you said, the Yankee bullpen had 2 meltdowns. Otherwise, it has been probably one of the best in all of baseball.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about in the last 2 weeks. They gave up 4 and 5 runs in 1 inning. They came in. But the Sandoval has just been absolutely terrible. Angels at home only 7 and 20. And the first 5 innings to me would seem like the most logical thing. I understand where you're going here with this. And Rodon's having a comeback season of the year. I mean, he hasn't done anything in the last 2 seasons. So the Yankees are really happy with what's going on with him, particularly with Cole on the sideline. But, we're coming off a 3-0 Major League Baseball Wednesday night, and we have one out there today. And, of course, the NBA, a mega buck winner between Dallas and Minnesota. So don't miss it, Ross. Even you can log on and get it.
I can. I just can't afford you,
Well, you can backdoor it or give me a call. I'll give you hints.
All right. If you give me a break, I might consider it. All right. So Chip Chirimbes over at gamblersworld.net, one of the finest handicappers over the last several decades, folks. I mean, for those of you old enough, remember Chip, he was on national TV with help me out, Chip King.
Well, we were on the line on you, but Jim Feist was there, and
back in the day, So he's been doing it a long time.
Yeah, there was pretty sharp.
All right, Chip. And again, because we're older, that doesn't mean that we need to run to 40 as fast as we did when we're 20, as long as our mind is working correctly. And we're all insane. We're in this business, but as long as your deductive reasoning and your intelligence level don't dissipate, there's no reason why you shouldn't get better instead of how you were when you're younger. Anyway, go ahead, Chip.
Well, I was going to say, if you give us a 20-yard head start and a 40-yard dash, I'll be competitive. But otherwise, I'm not too sure.
And the other reason why I want to go to first 5, Doug, because unlike you, we're on the damn East Coast. Unlike you two guys, I'm on the East Coast, brother. The Yankees might win by 10, but I want the damn thing to be over in 5 innings. All I need is a 1-run lead. Anyway, go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I have no problem with your pick. I just think the Yankees are that much better than the Angels. Nothing more than that. So I already mentioned 2 plays still available today. Both game 5s in both sports tonight, and they're both available at the Doug Upstone page at Doc Sports. So here we go.
There you go. Doc Sports is where you'll find DocSports.com is where you'll find Doug Upstone. They have some great handicappers there, but our favorite and the best that we think we're biased is Mr. Upstone. So visit him there. Again, Chip Chirimbes, gamblersworld.net. Like myself, and we guarantee all our picks at gamblersworld.net. By the way, folks, if you don't win, you don't make a profit on your multi-game or single-game daily packages or any subscription plan of 30 days or fewer, we're going to credit your account back the exact amount of your purchase price. No, that's not a sign of weakness. No, that's not a sign that we're unconfident. That's just we know that if you're just happen to dabble in at a time where we have a bad day or a bad week, we're confident by giving you that credit, we're going to be able to turn things around from you and get your confidence to go further. By the way, my NBA postseason with that win, Minnesota 115 and 69 since 2022. Chipper's got me thinking in ancient days. So that's good for 63%. That includes 38 and 21 this year. With that winner on the Kansas City Royals last night in the first 5 innings, I'm now on a 7-2 run in Major League Baseball. My Major League Baseball since August 3rd of last year, 79 and 54, 59%. I don't give out big chalks. Your ROI is going to be tremendous at 59% with me and could be a lot better than some people who had 65% with that exact amount of plays over that exact amount of time. Ross Benjamin at gamblersworld.net, Chip Chirimbes at gamblersworld.net, Doug Upstone at DocSports.com. Until the next time, these 2 guys will be back on Monday, and you're going to have the luxury of working with Mr. Sean Higgs, who will be hosting Monday's show. But I will be back with you next Thursday. So you're not getting rid of me very easily. And also, I will be back tomorrow with our live show with Sean Higgs and Jesse Schule. It's 1 p.m. Eastern time, folks. You can chime in with all your questions and comments. Don't miss that show. Don't miss the opportunity to fire up your questions, your comments, your disagreements, whatever you want to get off your chest. And we'll get to each and every one of you, time permitting. Till the next time, take care and God bless, folks.